What happened in Tour of Thailand?
So I think it was stage 2. I was in a break with Boone after like this 4-minute hill or something. Then I really wanted to stay there and finish to the end, right? And then I was trying to follow these Thai guys down this sweeping chicane. Yeah, and I was leaning a lot, and then I hear this loud hissing sound, and then suddenly I was just on the floor and I'm in the bushes.
Oh shit! How fast were you going down?
I checked my Wahoo, it was about 70 or something.
Holy crap!
So it was pretty quick, and you know how the concrete in Thailand is pretty nuts. It's like if you put water there, and the water doesn't go into the tarmac, so it's very very smooth, very fast, rolling. Yeah, I think it's a big fish, small pond kind of mentality a lot of riders have in Singapore. I mean, when I got to Australia, I can't do anything at all. Like hanging on to dear life, like teammates telling me to close the gap, and I can't do anything at all.
A Singaporean cyclist tackling the mountains of the Pyrenees and French Alps, taking part in cycling's biggest event, the Tour de France, by 2030. That's the aim of the Singapore Cycling Federation, which is also hoping a cyclist can win an Asian Games gold medal by then.
The amount of equipment support that they can provide. So personally, we have to individually take care of our own equipment, and then stuff gets worn and broken over time. And I believe having proper support.
All right, I'm here with Darren. Darren is a Singapore national cyclist where he has raced in various countries across Asia, primarily in Singapore, Malaysia, Japan, Australia and Thailand. And you also raced for the ARA Pro Racing Sunshine Coast. I believe that was where I interviewed Arfan and he was in the team as well.
Yeah.
And you've raced for ProCyclingSG and you've been a national cyclist since 2019, qualified for the SEA Games twice, Vietnam and Cambodia. Wow, very accomplished, Darren. Thanks for coming, man. And you wanna take it off? Anything that I've missed?
I think I can start from where I started cycling. I think back in 2019, how I got into the team was pretty funny, I would think. Because I wasn't wanting to compete for the nation and everything. I started with fixed gear bikes when I was 16. And then when I went to the army, I haven't been cycling and everything. I broke my wrist in the army. So I mean, you can still see like surgical scars over here. Yeah. Then got a TT bike because you wouldn't be putting weight on your wrist at all. So why not sign up for the 2019 ITT, right? So I came in behind 3 of the national riders, I believe. I think it was Jerome back then, Lokmano and Firoz. Yeah, then the coaches from SCF brought me to Singapore Sports Institute to do like some sort of testing. So there was this 4-minute test that everyone was nervous about. So I think I did fairly well, and that's how I got into a national team.
Wait, so you started a fixed bike only at 16?
Yeah, 16 years old. I mean, I just wanted to cycle for fun. Yeah. Back then, nothing to do after O levels. Then my cousin just, why not get a $100 fixed gear bike, and then we started from there.
This is not the fixed gear bikes where you do tricks and stuff, right? It's just a fixed gear.
No. Yeah, it's just cycle on a park connector for fun, and then eventually, secretly move on to the road because parents didn't allow us to go on the road at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then it's just started from there. Back then, I think they didn't ban brakes, so like we were riding brakeless on the roads.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then you just signed up for ITT, and then you just, like what you mentioned, just came in at a pretty decent...
Yeah, I think that was actually the most power I've done on a TT bike, 2019.
Wow.
Yeah. Then my last ITT last weekend was pretty low compared to what I did in the past, but way faster. Yeah.
Okay. And you are also the Rapha ride leader?
I'm the Rapha, the RCC coordinator. Actually, that's my day job for those who don't know.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The title's pretty long. It's like RCC coordinator and community lead. So I'm basically work with the country manager Chris and over 20 ride leaders across Singapore.
Right.
So these ride leaders, they're volunteers for Rapha Cycling Club. They run rides every single day. Sometimes we have more than 1-2 rides a day, and then on the weekends, that's where there's so many variety of rides. So I think it's pretty meaningful. It's a pretty nice job to have. Although sometimes it can be a bit stressful at times.
Oh, but it must be a dream job, man. Like working around cyclists and organizing.
You get to travel and everything.
Yeah.
But I'm still fairly young. It's my first job ever since I graduated from NTU. I think I may need something else. I mean, a job that can do further.
Yeah.
So I think by when this video gets released, I may probably be in another place already. So actually, I got a job offer in the National Olympic Council.
Okay.
So I'm going back
Congrats.
to SSI as a sports physiologist.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know when this video is out. Today is what date is it today?
Today is the 10th of August.
Oh.
So I'm gonna be saying my goodbyes to the community and going back.
So I got a
November.
time releasing this video correctly. I can't be releasing it tomorrow.
That'd be jumping the queue, right?
That'd be a disaster. Okay, so
Yeah.
coming back to cycling, so you came in at a decent results for the ITT, and then were you always you knew that you had this talent of cycling, or you just happened to be?
I honestly don't know. I just cycle for fun. I was not really training that hard compared to when I was training under Adrian. I did martial arts before cycling, actually, like Muay Thai and everything. So I didn't know, cycling was something that I can pursue. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And maybe you want to talk about your bikes you've owned. I know you've got a Factor O2.
Yeah, Factor O2 was given. Not really say given. It was a loan bike from ARA back in Sunshine Coast, and then Rapha and myself was offered a very, very good price to take over the bikes at the end of the season. So I've been riding that bike for quite a while, and then I got this titanium bike mainly because I want to have a bike that I can ride for a very, very long time, and then I wouldn't be hand itchy and go and buy a carbon bike or something. So the O2 still at home, in a nice cardboard box. So next time if I want to actually buy a carbon bike or carbon road bike, I have it there.
Yeah. Can we talk more about this ARA Sunshine Coast team? How did you get into the team, and how's it like there?
Before ARA, I was racing for ProCyclingSG, but so back then I think you can look at the news or whatever. So SCF or Singapore in general wanted to send a rider to Tour de France by 2030 or something like that. Then there's this ProCyclingSG that was supposed to be like a Pro Conti team. So we were gathering riders, and I was part of the project back then.
A Singaporean cyclist tackling the mountains of the Pyrenees and French Alps, taking part in cycling's biggest event, the Tour de France, by 2030. That's the aim of the Singapore Cycling Federation, which is also hoping a cyclist can win an Asian Games gold medal by then.
The amount of equipment support that they can provide. So personally, we have to individually take care of our own equipment, and then stuff gets worn and broken over time. And I believe having a proper professional team will be able to have a lot more other brands and companies to help us.
And then COVID hit, so there weren't any racing at all. It was like silent. Yeah, I think we were training very, very hard for the team time trial, and it didn't happen. Yeah, so I think the only race that I did for pro cycling was the ITT. Yeah, back then I was on the Giant Trinity, I believe.
Right.
Yeah.
So what? Yeah, go ahead.
AIA came about like soon after COVID ended, and then back then the NDS boys weren't really, but were still like not as strong as now. So I think they just sent two of us there. So Afan and myself got selected by SCF.
So what's happening with the Pro Cycling SG project now? Like, is the vision of sending Singaporeans into the Tour de France by 2030 going to happen?
The last time I checked, it was I think they put the resources differently, so they had quite a budget for it. And then I think right now they used it to send juniors and all the national team SEA Games training, all to like Chiang Mai or training camps. I think the money is a lot better spent. So I think most of the funding went into the current cyclists that are training to represent the nation.
Right.
Yeah.
So if COVID did not happen, would it be a different story right now?
Wow. I honestly think maybe, because we were training really, really hard back then, and we really needed that kind of race exposure. So my fitness doesn't match the skills that I have on a bike. I think my friends back in the racing team could attest to that. I mean, like, they have this yeah, I just can't handle the bike as well as like Riyadh or Afan for the mountain bike scene.
Have you been mountain biking before?
No, actually,
Okay.
it was fixed gear and straight to road bikes, and then I think it was fixed gear, then TT bike, then road bike.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
All right. And training. Let's talk about the training. I mean, you were kind of in this race team that I'm assuming training must be quite rigorous as well. Give us a bit of insights into how's training like.
you train about average of 25 hours a week. I think one of the hardest weeks was about 30 hours a week, and then back then was juggling studying in NTU. So when I started 2019 in NTU sports science as well, so it was pretty tough to juggle. It's basically you're either on the bike or on the table studying, so really no time to do other things. Yeah.
I recently got a comment on my TikTok page and TikTok profile, and someone asked, how do I get into how do I race professionally in Singapore? So maybe this guy is a younger guy who wants to get into this. What's the advice? Like, how do they get noticed? Because he says there's not many races here in Singapore that he could participate. And what's the process like?
I think it really depends on your goals. If you want to one day represent the nation or you want to become a pro cyclist, I think you have better opportunities elsewhere. Perhaps start studying on Australia or something. In Australia, I mean, they have like almost a crit race every single week, and then there's progression from like Cat C to Cat A. Yeah, so I think if you want to have a good idea of where you stand, you go elsewhere to race first, then come back to Singapore.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, in Singapore, there's like smaller events, like, we have Virtual Cycling SG, we have Will to Dream.
Yeah.
We have probably ITT, TTT, and the road race every year, but I don't think that's enough to really get you to where you want to be if you want to be really good at it. Yeah, I think it's a big fish, small pond kind of mentality a lot of riders have in Singapore. I mean, when I got to Australia, I can't do anything at all. Like hanging on to dear life, like teammates telling me to close the gap, and I can't do anything at all.
This is when you have ARA?
Yeah, like I opened my eyes. So I only notice how like small and how much more I have to do to be at their level.
So how would you describe these guys who are outside of Australia? They're probably, even in small clubs, and they're very much stronger than most of us. Will you say that?
Maybe. I think it's the exposure that counts. For sure, there are people who are not as strong, but the level is so much higher if you continuously try to pit yourself against one another in a very, very big field. Our field is pretty small, so you can't really get stronger if you're always the strongest. You need somebody to beat you so you can get stronger. Yeah.
So you say that the local races here, you always see the same guys?
It's always the
come
same
on
guys.
podium,
You look at the
right?
podium, right? It's pretty much the same people.
Yeah.
Like it's Boone, Matt Britton, Poon,
Yeah.
Willie. And in mountain bikes, you have Riyadh and Afan. And it's pretty much the same people.
Right.
You don't really see fresh faces.
Right.
Yeah, so I think we as a cycling community have a long way to go. I think we have to start from the ground up and top down as well. Anything lah.
So for the younger guys who are watching, and the takeaway is then try racing elsewhere and get the experience outside.
If you really want to pursue cycling, and if you really and if you just want to try, there's so many opportunities for you to try in Singapore, right? And if you feel like you are there and you're the best already, then go elsewhere. If you're not even like making podium or anything, then probably you can probably still stay in Singapore.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's so many coaches out there who are willing to guide you. There's Wayland from Podium. There's Ahwad's coaching as well. I'm with Darren coaching, and then once you hit a certain level, I'm pretty sure Mark Chadwick can take you on as well.
Yeah. Okay. And I recently I had an encounter when we were at Le Tap Malacca. Sorry, I keep bringing Le Tap Malacca out because that's the most recent race that I have joined, and I think we were in the third peloton or the second peloton.
Yeah, it was so messy, right? I mean, it's a road race, mass start, it's pretty messy.
How would you say the Le Tap Malacca was? Because apparently that it's just like another Singaporean weekend race. Like 80% of the riders were from Singapore. I didn't know if I was in Malaysia or Singapore.
I think it was most of our race teams are there. I think You see the Mavericks, you see Matadors, you see was Allied were there? I can't remember. I think they were there as well. And you see some of the Malaysian guys there. I think it's a good place if you want to experience racing at a low level. I wouldn't say low level, but at least at regional. And then there's different tiers as well. I think there's open category. So if you're totally new, open is okay. But you just need to take care of the front wheel. And then there's an elite one, right? Yeah, where we did.
Yeah, that was the one I was accidentally in that team in that race. And I remember when I was in that race, and you were leading the pack on this bike. Yeah, and you look very effortless. It looks very simple, like a very easy race for you.
I think. I mean, it wasn't an A race or anything. I went there mainly for work, I would say, because RCC had I wouldn't say a project, but a trip to Malaysia. So sometimes there's these kind of events, and then I was sort of coordinating for RCC to go there, and just might as well have a good ride there. So I wasn't there to like win or anything. I was so far from how I was used to be. I mean, how my fitness is like pretty weak compared to what I was able to do. This bike, they hold me back at all. I can't blame the bike lah.
Yeah.
I think aerodynamics is most important, and like if you can get low on a bike, I think the material of the bike doesn't really matter.
Right.
The weight not as important as well. So I think posture is most important. Yeah, for a road bike.
So let's talk about this one. This is a Ascent Titanium bike.
Yeah.
That I'm assuming you're sponsored by.
No, I actually bought it at 3K for the frame set.
Okay.
Yeah, so I really wanted something special to me so I can keep it for a long time. So coming from a fixed gear background, I really like those very, very aggressive geometry, traditional geometry, I would say. So like a parallel top tube. So Ting was able to do that for me, and I wanted clean front end as well, so no cables or anything. So that was nicely matched with the data stem that I have there.
Right.
Yeah.
How would you describe the feeling of riding a titanium bike? So previously I've interviewed a couple of guys who had titanium bikes. The main selling point to them is the ride comfort. How would you describe this?
I don't think I can put a word to it. Like, it just feels different from a carbon bike. It doesn't feel as fast. Sometimes it feels sluggish, but it's stiff, and you just feel like one with the bike, I guess. Yeah.
Would you say then a carbon aero bike would be much faster?
I don't know. You have to go test it out or something.
Do you have a carbon aero bike or just
No,
a
I
Factor?
don't. The last time I rode a carbon aero bike was the Factor Ostrovam from the Rapha clubhouse.
Right.
So these are available for rent, but $60 a day, 60 Sing a day if you're an RCC member.
If I'm not, I can't.
If you are not, you can just get the RCC membership. So if you go to Tokyo or like any other clubhouses, Seoul clubhouse, whatever, you can rent the bikes at about 60 Sing a day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe we can talk about Rapha and virtual cycling a little bit later.
Yeah, sure.
I guess the guys who are watching will want to know more about this bike and your setup, because it looks like obviously this frame is custom made to your geometry, and the seat post is rather low. Is there a reason for that? Like,
it looks low because of the
top tube?
The top tube. So normal bikes have like a sloping top tube, so you have more exposed seat post. I suppose that's more for comfort and everything.
Right.
But I just wanted a more aggressive geometry, and because of that, the seat tube looks a bit low lah.
Right. So can Ascent or make whatever you want out of this titanium? Like what you're looking for in the bike frame?
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, I wanted the bike to feel like a Factor 02, so he kind of copied the wheelbase and the fork geometry, fork rate angle, etc. But slightly increased the wheelbase so it'll feel more comfortable on the long rides.
And you've got a SRAM rate group set as well as
the SRAM Force.
Sorry,
SRAM rate.
SRAM Force.
Yeah, SRAM rate crank.
SRAM Force with a SRAM rate crank. No wonder I got confused. Okay, what's the reason for that?
I think my SRAM Force had a power meter. So I wanted to, back then I was using a pedal-based power meter, and then I just sold off, then I might as well use the cash to get a better crank.
Right.
Yeah, so you won't have two power meters on the bike, redundant. Yeah.
Okay. And then you have the Polaris 42, Ascent Polaris 42mm wheels.
Yeah.
And maybe give us a quick review of the wheels.
These are the Ascent 42s. I think they handle very, very well in the wind. They are one of the lightest wheel sets out there. I think 1.3 with the DT Swiss 214. It can even go below that if you use a lighter hub. So it measures pretty wide. So even with these 30mm Michelin Power Cup tires, you don't have that bulge up tire or what they call the ice cream effect. Yeah,
Ice cream effect.
Yeah, ice cream effect. Because it looks like an ice cream
Yeah,
if you if you have a cross section area,
Right.
which can just destroy the aerodynamic properties of a wheel.
Yeah, and you're running Michelin Pro Cups, the same one as
Power cups, yeah.
Michelin Power Cups, and this is in 25 or
No,
30,
30 mm. So pretty wide. More for comfort, control. I don't really think you need such narrow tires right now. I mean, the aerodynamics for small tires is marginal, very, very marginal compared to the amount of rolling resistance that you can improve on with a wider tire.
Yeah.
And you're more comfortable, more confident on the bike. So yeah,
Okay.
wide
And
tires are the way to go.
White tires. Damn
Yeah.
it! I'm on a very narrow tire.
Yeah.
Gotta convince myself to start making that change. Okay, and the handlebars, I guess, also the highlight. These are the Ascent Aero handlebars. These are rather new in the market.
Yeah, very new.
Yeah. You wanna give us a highlight of this? Bars?
I used to run a coefficient road race handlebar, so it looks pretty similar, but I wanted it to be better. So I approached Ting Xiang to hey, look bro, why not you create a custom bar? I'll definitely buy it from you. And then he really went all the way. So he 3D printed like these plastic ones and then he mounted on the bike. It's not safe for riding, but at least you get the feel of it, ergonomics. And then he eventually printed out an aluminium one and put it on my fiance Darren's bike. And then we were like playing with it and experimented on it, and a lot of things can change. The flare wasn't so narrow in the past, it was way wider, and then a lot of things improved, and then finally things are made a mold, and was able to come out with this, and it's available for the rest of the people.
So if I look at it cosmetically, what happens is it's flat towards you, and then it goes it bends inwards, and then it flares out at the bottom. So
Yeah.
how narrow does it get from hood to hood?
Hood to hood, I think it's 28. 28 centimeters.
Wow.
Was it 28.5, 29? Yeah, around there. I mean, depends on how much you angle the bike, right?
Right.
Yeah, but it measures 30, I think, before you angle it inwards.
How
30
does
or
it
32.
feel riding such narrow bars? I mean, I know people are getting narrow and narrow, but 30 is like quite hard
It's
to believe.
pretty narrow. I
Yeah.
think if you look at track riders, they ride pretty narrow handlebars. I think the main thing you get from being narrow on the front end is the aerodynamics. So you feel a lot more faster when you're riding. And if your shoulders aren't that broad, you can run pretty narrow and still feel comfortable. But
Yeah.
I think there's a limit to how narrow you can get. I think we are pushing the limits already.
Yeah.
And it's very rider dependent. It will affect your control initially. You won't have that much leverage to rock the bike when you sprint. But that's I would say countered by the white flare on the drops.
Yeah, I was gonna get to that point because the fact that the hoods and tops are very narrow, when you were to go off saddle and swing the bike, would it
It
feel
will feel
like
different, but you'll get used to it, I guess.
Yeah.
Your moto just needs to relearn how to ride a bike again. I won't say how to ride a bike, how to control
Handle
or
a bike.
how you feel.
Right. Okay. And Rapha and Virtual Cycling SG, you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Maybe I will start with Virtual Cycling SG.
Yeah.
So, where is it? Yeah, so Virtual Cycling SG is a small project. It started out because I got injured. That's how I missed out the 2 seconds. Qualified but missed out. Got hit by a car, and then Adrian Ng, my head coach, was like, "Hey Darren, why not we prepare for 2029 Esports cycling in Singapore, because in 2029 Singapore's going to be hosting the SEA Games, and we have a very, very good opportunity to host esports. So before then, we want to have a team, and to have a good team you need to have a good community. So go back to like the racing thing, right? If you have a very, very big community, your best riders will be a lot better than a very small community. So we came out with Virtual Cycling SG to try to kickstart the esports cycling in Singapore. Yeah.
So you have a bunch of was it Watt bikes, or how does
So right now we are currently sponsored by Watt Bike
Yeah.
from Eco Lifestyle. We have about 10 in the studio under YMCA. So basement 1 of YMCA Orchard. 10 bikes. So we have to make the best use of our space, right? Because only 10 bikes. Our community is pretty big, so we have to stagger, and that's the reason why we can't give you a solid date on like the whatever race that you registered for. So, and it's a range, so we have to put people into heats, etc., to try to manage things. I think we are so far so good, I guess. Hopefully we're looking for a bigger place in the near future.
Okay. All the best with virtual cycling. So if people want to get more information, is there a website you guys have? Or
I think for now you can just follow us on IG. Most
on
of our
Instagram.
Stuff or news is all over there.
Okay. Can anyone just come up, just sign up and just treat it like a spin class and just attend?
Yeah, I think there's bike passes on our website.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So check out their IG and website. And then
Thank you.
Rapha, any more plugs? You want to speak about Rapha? Okay, wait. Before that,
Yeah.
right? I know a lot of people initially joined Rapha because of the insurance that Rapha used to provide,
Yeah.
which is apparently no longer available.
Yeah, so the insurance wasn't well utilized.
Okay.
So it only covers your helmet and your phone and your bike computer, and it's very, very hard to claim as well. So the amount of people claim it's not worth Rapha going to get an insurance for everybody. So in the end of the day, they rather put that funding elsewhere. But we recently had a talk with NTUC Income to have a very, very good deal to cover your bike and your rider. Yeah,
Okay,
for
so
RCC members.
Is that coming up or is it already launched?
It's there already.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. And anything else you would like to mention?
I think that's all.
Okay.
For
all this.
These two stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've got more interesting topics, mainly submitted by people on IG. Some are your friends, some are my followers. Maybe we'll start with the first one. Ooh, what brands do you recommend for performance cycling clothing, Rapha?
I mean, if you look in the World Tour, right? You look at the brands that are actually doing their jerseys. We have Castelli, you have ASOS, then you have Rapha. I think Rapha is the only one that stands out from the consumer clothing because they're actually in the World Tour. They actually raced in the World Tour. You don't see other brands, smaller brands out there in the World Tour and being tested, in the wind tunnel, in those kind of conditions, the durability, etc. you need for training every single day. That's pretty important as well. So I think you can look for what you see in the World Tour lah.
Right. Okay. So Rapha, I guess.
Yeah, I mean it's quite available, right?
Yeah. Next one is this is an interesting one. How much do you sleep every night during the training season?
I wish I can sleep more. Back when I was studying in school, I wasn't sleeping a lot actually. Sometimes there are double training sessions a day, so 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours at night. So I wake up early, do 2 hours, go to lectures, do some work, and then at night you ride 2 hours. So I sleep maybe 4 or 5 hours.
Wow.
I wish I can sleep a lot more than I did in the past.
It's a hard life.
Yeah, it's pretty tough. Yeah. So you need sleep to do well, by the way. So maybe if I improve my sleep, I could have done so much better.
Yeah.
If I train more than I sleep, I'm like tearing my body down faster than it can build up, right?
Yeah. So to all the guys who want to think of doing this, you got to think about juggling all this and the amount of commitment.
Yeah, don't cycle more than you sleep.
Don't cycle more than you
Yeah,
sleep. Right.
the hours.
Yeah. Next one is, what food do you eat to be this strong?
What food do I eat? I eat a lot of stuff. I eat mostly a vegetarian plant-based diet. I would call myself a bad vegan, so I would try to avoid eggs and like milk stuff, mostly for ethical reasons.
Yeah.
I eat a lot of carbs,
Right.
like a lot of carbohydrates, noodles, rice, whatever you call it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that very important, like having a very high carb diet?
I mean, if you cycle often, you want to make sure that you have a high glycogen availability because it affects your ability to adapt to training as well. So if you're constantly in a faster state or you low glycogen stores, you can't function well as a human being.
Right.
Your brain runs on glucose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So during a ride, what is your nutrition like? And we've got Darren. Darren just came into the show.
Yeah.
Hello.
Sneaky.
What's your on race on bike nutrition gels, and what's in your drink? How do you feel?
Depends on what I'm doing. If I'm racing, then probably some liquid carbs in the bottle, some gels in a pocket. Make sure that I hit the requirements that I need for the race.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I was recently having a chat with one of my cycling buddies, and he was like telling me, do you know the amount of... he writes, and all he does is like he adds sugar and just water.
Yeah.
Like this is like a cheaper alternative than to buy very high, very expensive nutrition. And he says that the amount of sugar that you need is actually very, very high. So it's a matter of whether you can down that amount of sugared water and whether your body can adapt to that. Is that what's your thoughts about that?
I think you can use table sugar to a certain extent, but table sugar is made of sucrose and fructose. You only make use of two pathways. There's also like other things that you need in a well-rounded drink. You want electrolytes as well. So I think to a certain extent you can use that method, but it can be better if you use other products. I'm not gonna put anything out there, but there are so many out there, right? Like different ratios and everything.
Yeah. Okay. What is the most disappointing race outcome throughout your racing career?
I think it will be in Oita.
Okay.
Yeah, for AIA Pro Racing. It was the road race actually. There was a camise that goes about 130k around the streets of Oita. I think I was dropped in like lap 2 because these Japanese people are like descending at 60k an hour and like taking this V-bend, like they're just risking. I feel they're risking everything, and like people washing out but they still carry on.
Yeah.
And like just very, very strong. And I think back then when I was in Tour of Thailand, it kind of affected me when I crashed at pretty high speeds, and then. Back then, I was still able to, descend, take corners, fairly confidently. And ever since then, it's been pretty tough to get back to the former self.
What happened in Tour of Thailand?
So I think it was stage 2. I was in a break with Boone after like this 4-minute hill or something. Then I really wanted to stay there and finish to the end, right? And then I was trying to follow these Thai guys down this sweeping chicane. Yeah, and I was leaning a lot, and then I hear this loud hissing sound, and then suddenly I was just on the floor and I'm in the bushes.
Oh shit! How fast were you going down?
I checked my Wahoo, it was about 70 or something.
Holy crap!
So it was pretty quick, and you know how the concrete in Thailand is pretty nuts. It's like if you put water there, and water doesn't go into the tarmac, so it's very, very smooth. Yeah, very fast. Rolling,
and the whole peloton is going at this speed.
No, it was a selected breakaway
Okay.
So the whole peloton wasn't there. If the whole peloton was there, I think it would be slower. Yeah, it was a break, so it was pretty fast.
What injuries do you suffer from
I thought I broke my hip actually. So the ambulance had to come up and put me on a stretcher, and then I thought I was being they made you like a durian. They basically tried to like put your wrist on your hip and try to see whether or not you fracture your hips.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty painful, and I couldn't walk afterwards. It was so swollen.
So you fractured your hips?
No, I didn't. If I fractured my hip, I probably wouldn't be able to cycle for a long time.
So no broken bones?
No broken bones. So far, no broken bones. Only broken ligaments and muscles.
Wow. 70k descending and you just wiped out.
It looked like 70. I mean, it was like 70 and then just dropped, right?
So what's the secret to these Japanese guys descending at such high speeds? Is it the tire pressure? That's the way you maneuver the bike?
I think they are just very confident. And I think there's a safety net for them as well. I mean, if they break their bike or whatever, then, they probably get a replacement pretty quick, and then they have strong insurance to cover them. I mean, if all these are at the back of your mind, like what's gonna happen after
don't care just whack it, man.
Yeah, that's why you need to be able to dissociate from all these what ifs and then just go. I think that's it's my personality, I guess. I would say I think too much.
Right.
I mean, coming from a sports science background, you need to think of all the different outcomes and scenarios and what you can do to manage these outcomes and scenarios. So I think that play a huge role in in my performance.
So let's say if you're going in a race, you should just empty your mind.
I guess so. Yeah, you
really disassociate everything, right?
Yeah, I think it's a very, very important part of sports psychology. You need to put your head in your game,
and just have that vision.
Focus on what you can control and what you cannot and not focus on what you cannot control.
Okay, so I hope that answers the question to this user who asked this. You briefly spoke about your training routine, 25 hours a week, was it?
Average lah.
Yeah. So he would like to know a bit more in depth. What's share your training routine, please?
Back then.
Yeah.
Back then, it changed a lot actually. When I first went under Adrian, it was Monday 1 minute, Tuesday 2 minute, Wednesday 3 minute intervals. So it's like 10 sets of each. And Thursday you just I think it's 30-second all out. And Friday you're slightly recovered, and then Saturday a long ride, and then Sunday you go for a hammer ride.
Wow.
Yeah, so you repeat that for like 3 weeks or something.
Is it a pretty standard training plan?
I think that will overload you like crazy.
Okay.
So I think now the training plan changed a lot, like after a few years. So it really depends on which part of the season you're at and how far you are away from your A race. So you will focus on different energy systems and focus on different what do I call it? Limiters, your physiological limits in different. So probably you focus on force development, you focus on skills and your speed at the start, and then closer to the race, you focus on more specific things.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. That's Darren's training routine back then. Another interesting question. Wow, lovely questions today, man. What made you decide to participate in your first race, and how did it go?
I think I answered it at the start.
Yeah.
I just, I was actually in OCS when I got injured, and then that took me out. And I think I'm that kind of person that I want to have something hard in my life. I want to suffer for something, and that's actually how I got back into ITT this year actually. But yeah, I think back then life got a bit too boring and easy. It's affected me psychologically, I guess. I mean, you're in a cast after surgery, you can't do anything. Then post surgery, you're just doing nothing at home during MC. So like, why not just pick up the bike and do something difficult, right?
Right. Okay. So that answers the question. Is there such thing as a forever bike?
I think if you take care of the bike, it can last forever.
Yeah.
Titanium bike, I think can outlive me. I mean, there's a reason why doctors put titanium stuff into your body when you get injured, right?
Yeah.
So I think maybe the carbon may not last as long as the titanium, but things can be replaced. The frame don't really need to replace. Yeah.
How do you keep yourself motivated to train when you hit a bad patch or when you start plateauing?
I think you have to ask yourself why you start in the first place. If you just do it for fun, and then if the fun runs out or wins, then you're probably not going to be able to get back on training. But if you're doing it for whether to make your parents proud, to one day represent a nation, or get a medal in SEA Games so the sport gets more funding in the future, that will keep you going.
Right. Maybe I'll pick one more question before we end this. What is your average speed? Can I be a professional racer? This is from Clement, your teammate.
Clement. What's my average? I don't know. Depends.
I had this bad misconception when I started cycling. Every time I look at Strava, my average speed needs to be very high. But I guess that's a wrong idea, right? Yeah.
Funnily enough, right, speed is actually the most important thing.
Really?
Yeah, because if your average speed is low, you're not going to win a race. The guy that wins the race has the highest average speed, right? Yeah. Same for ITT, same for road race. So I think at the end of the day, if you break down everything into like its constituent parts, you look at power, you look at rolling resistance, you look at CDA, then you kind of miss a bigger picture, which is speed. But if you look at speed too much, then you focus on you may not be able to improve because you don't know where to start.
Yeah.
You may not be able to put out much power. You may be too heavy. Your CDA might be low. So I think you break apart everything. You improve every single thing, and then you come back again, look at your speed.
Right.
I'm not sure if that answers the question.
So speed is still the most important metric at the end of the day.
If you're racing.
Right.
Yeah.
For a weekend rider?
Weekend rider, I think being happy on a bike is most important.
So don't care if you get dropped as long as you're happy.
As long as you continue cycling.
Right.
Yeah, the moment you stop cycling is where it gets bad.
Yeah. One last question before I end this, because on my channel I generally have very nice fancy bikes, and I get quite a lot of overseas viewers, and they say, wow, Singapore, you guys have really nice bikes. What is your view about Singapore, the Singapore cycling scene?
I think the Singapore cycling scene can focus on the sport more than whatever identity they are trying to have. It's whether be wearing nice clothing or riding nice bikes. They should focus on do something difficult and do something that's makes you kind of scared. Something that that keeps you focused at the end of the day, and keeps you aligned. Because if you don't have all these goals in mind, you're gonna start to focus on what kind of clothing is nicer, or which cycling group is nicer, or what bike is nicer, etc.
Do you feel that there's the pressure here to have a nice bike?
I don't think so.
This is a nice bike.
It's nice to me. But I mean, if it was any other aluminum bike, I would still be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to ride a Cat 12 even when I was still in the national team.
Right.
Yeah, until, the ProCyclingSG got me a Giant TCR, and that was one of the best handling bikes I've ever ridden. Yeah, so I think the bikes can be part of you, but it shouldn't be all of you.
Yeah. It's just an extension of who you are.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like a tool, right?
Yeah.
Like running shoe or like a badminton racket. It's just another sporting equipment.
Yeah, that's
don't
what
be too obsessed.
Exactly. I that's what I try to tell myself until I look at how much I spent on the bike. So the other day I was out for a ride and then I slipped and then my frame scraped the curb. I was like, oh my god, that's a very expensive drop because it scraped my fork and then my seat stay. And then I was like, shit, what do I do now? Because I know a lot of people here or maybe abroad like to wrap their frames with PPF, but I'm not the kind of guy. I think it's a bit expensive to do so. And then I was like thinking, should I touch up the bike? But you know what? I don't care. It's a bike. It's just a bike at the end of the day, right? So why bother doing so much? But I guess a lot of money went into buying bikes, so people tend to overcare for their bikes.
Yeah. I think similar to electronics, right? You get a new iPhone or iPad or whatever, and then you buy a case to protect it. And then I think another school of thought is like, if it gets scratched or it gets dented or whatever, it's like signs of use. So you actually use the stuff.
Yeah. What do you think is the biggest upgrade one can make to their bike to go faster? I know we spoke about how it's 90% rider and maybe 10% bike, but what is the biggest thing that someone can do to make
I
the
think
bike go
if you
faster?
haven't go for a bike fit and you get a saddle that fits you do that.
The saddle?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or crank arms.
Yeah. So
I
what
think
saddle are you on?
I'm on a SQ Lab saddle.
Okay.
So I think it's one of the most comfortable saddles I've used because it kind of like my seat bone is on that thing and then there's almost no pressure on the perineum. So I used to have very numb undercarriage at the end of rides and when it pee, it hurts sometimes.
Wow.
So ever since I got this, no issues, can ride far, ride over 7 hours in Taiwan.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so get stuff that make you want to ride the bike more.
Not for aesthetics.
I think if aesthetics make you ride more, then okay lor.
Yeah. And you look at the bike, wow, nice bike, let's go.
Yeah, nice bike, let's go ride. But then if you see rain, then your bike nice, you don't need to get dirty, then sell out, then get something else that make you want to ride out, like a raincoat or whatever lah. Yeah. Most important is to get on your bike. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Cool. Darren, I think that's it. Thanks for coming on and sharing some of your insights into racing and appreciate your time. Thanks, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, next will be Darren.
Okay.
She's hiding behind my wife.
Darren got a lot to share.
You got to convince her to come on next. Cool.